Ho 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 ho! Hello friends! Hello, this is Darryl Syms and today I'm going to be talking to you about the methods behind the Lari Basilio solo in the Music Is Win Epic Jam. So Lari posted her solo on her channel and somebody commented asking, can you do a video where you explain what scales are used and how they join together? There seemed to be quite some demand for this, so I decided to give it a go myself. So let's begin analysing and dissecting some of the methods and theory involved in Lari's solo. So a couple of things that I should mention before we get cracking is that this performance is tuned in drop C, although this is not absolutely necessary since Lari only actually plays this string once throughout the entire solo. And that secondly, before we move on to the actual solo itself, let's just analyze the chord progression that we're playing over. So there are 4 chords in this. Let me play the progression for you. So what we have there is a C minor, into a B flat, into E flat, into a D diminished. So when explaining the methods involved in this solo, I'll try to always relate to the chord that we're playing over and of course the scale that we're using for this. So let's start this off. Now considering this chord progression is in C minor, this tells us that we're in a minor progression, and the chords that surround it indicate that we're actually in C Aeolian, which sounds like this. That is essentially the scale that we'll be using across the entire neck for the entire solo, with the exception of a couple little bits that I'll indicate along the way. So we start off with this phrase. So that there, it really is just built around C Aeolian. Except for this note here, this is just a sort of chromatic passing note. Technically that is actually our flat 5, which doesn't really indicate anything, it's just a chromatic note. So we have... We're gonna do a pitch harmonic just behind the middle pickup there. And then we have... So that there, this here in particular is actually a first inversion major triad of E flat, and that's our relative major of our tonic, which is C minor. So we've gone from C minor to E flat, first inversion. Although I really doubt that Lari even thought about that when writing this solo, because this particular triad shape actually fits perfectly in the C Aeolian box shape here. So moving on from there, this note here is a very emotive note, a very wise choice since it's just off of our C pentatonic scale. Just adds a little bit of feeling and emotion in there. Now moving on to the next bar, which is B flat, we have the following phrase. So that phrase there, let me play it slow for you. So that there is based around B flat mixolydian, which is the same as C Aeolian. And then we have a bend here, which leads us into our next bar, which is E flat. So that phrase there just descends, which is E flat. And then this is kind of where it gets interesting, because we're leading into the D diminished, and that phrase sounds like this. And that is the start of our next bar. So we have, and then we have 3 bends which are really highlighting that D diminished sound. So our first one, we're bending into 12, and this is our B note, which isn't actually in our C Aeolian scale. That actually is a harmonic minor note. So if we sharpen the 7th of the C Aeolian scale, we actually get C harmonic minor. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sharp the 7. So that harmonic minor scale fits perfectly over that D diminished. And then if we move on from there, this here is your tonic, we're bending into the C, and then finally, just descending into our next bar where we have, so that's just the descending phrase into the tonic, That's the tonic note there, C. And then B flat is our next bar. So we have a long pentatonic phrase here, and we're going to use our fingers for this one. So you need to tuck your pick away in your second finger there. And we're going to play the following phrase. So let me play that slow for you. And then our next bar plays over an E flat, which sounds like this. So this first note here, the root note, is the only note that we actually need on this drop C string, and that's our E flat. So we're always jumping between that E flat, and we're just playing with some intervals of the E flat major chord. And that leads us perfectly into our D diminished again, and we're going to play a phrase like this. So that first phrase is just a chromatic run to begin with, and then this just follows the sort of C minor Aeolian shape, followed by 2 diminished arpeggios. And if you know anything about diminished chords, you'll know that these ascend up the neck in thirds. So what I mean by that is that this D diminished chord, you can play it 3 frets up, and then 3 frets up again, and so on. And it's exactly the same chord. And similarly, you can do the same with arpeggios. Except obviously in this example, Larry obviously only has time to play 2, and this second arpeggio finishes perfectly right next to the tonic, which is C. But obviously we're not going to resolve it there, we're going to carry on with another phrase in C minor. So let me play that slow for you. So you may have noticed that the 9th fret there is not in the C Aeolian scale, but again that's just a chromatic passing note. Since we don't hang out on that for very long, it works perfectly. So that whole phrase there goes over our C minor and B flat. Now we're going to move on to our E flat, where we're going to play this. The only thing I should really mention with that bar there is that that bend, we're bending into the major third of E flat, which is a very beautiful note to bend into. So a very short phrase there which finishes on the D note, and that half bend really emphasizes that D diminished sound. And we have a pick slide. Before going back to our C minor, and we're just going to play a C Aeolian phrase here. Let me play that slow for you. And then, since we're going down to the B flat, we're going to play the same style of lick in B flat Mixolydian. So that there, if I play it slow. Our next bar is built on an E flat, and we're just going to play a pentatonic phrase which starts on the E flat, and it sounds like this. So that there, if I play it slow for you. That leads us into our D diminished. We have a very short phrase, similar to what we did earlier in our last D diminished. And then we're going to finish with a bend on the 13 of the B, which is played over our tonic chord, C minor. Now this is a C note, and we're bending up to a D, which is great because it's kind of unresolved. And by finishing on an unresolved note, it's just a very considerate thing to do, considering there's a solo after Lari. And by finishing on an unresolved note, it keeps moving the track forward and makes you want to continue listening to the next soloist in the epic jam. So that just about wraps it up there. If you would like a tab to follow along to this solo, then please go check out my Patreon, where you can find all the oh my god. Oh, son, what you do to me? So as I was saying, tabs for videos like these are all available on my Patreon page, and by supporting my Patreon, you will ultimately be helping me to provide better content and better equipment for the content that you're watching. So please consider doing that if you enjoy watching these videos and you take something away from them. Otherwise, at the very least, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any other suggestions on solos that you would like me to analyze, then let me know in the comments below. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.